Good morning to one and all present here. Every year after the budget is presented in the Parliament, the market analysts get into action analyzing the hits and misses of the financial plans of the central government. This year was no different. Few sections got more prominence than others and few were forgotten. Let's look at some of the impacts in today's webinar. Once again, good morning to all of you. On behalf of our management, principal, deans, HODs, and the teaching faculty, I extend a warm welcome and express my gratitude for joining us for today's webinar. Now, I invite our beloved principal, Dr. P. Devasundari, to give the welcome note and introduce our today's guest speaker. Ma'am, on to you.
Thanks, Nagalakshmi, ma'am. Very good morning to all. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. Pleased to welcome those who have joined us today for this session on Union Budget 2022-23, Hits and Misses by Mr. James Verghese, CFO, Olive Technology Ltd. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our director, Dr. Annie Jacob, for initiating all such unique programs and always wanting all of us to enrich with a wider knowledge in all domains. KCG College of Technology, which is a unit of Hindustan Group of Institutions, known for the holistic development of both faculty as well as students, have been able to host many renowned guests across various domains, technical, non-technical, and across various domains. Adding to that, today we have another renowned guest, Mr. James Verghese. He has over 30 plus years of experience in corporate finance, IPOs, debt syndication, funding, financial services operation, credit appraisal, audit, accounts, taxation, general management, and corporate governance, working with corporates, namely United Phosphorus Limited, Midcon Limited, Pune, General Motors, etc. Since 2004, he has been in impact investment sector and has worked for clients based out of countries like USA, Netherlands, Geneva, etc. Presently, he is the CFO of Olive Technology Inc. USA. Being a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India with a bachelor's in science and bachelor's in law from Bombay University, he is specialized in corporate finance and investment banking, strategy and governance, financial operations and accounts, audit, taxation, and law. He is a certified internal auditor holding a senior management program certification from IIM Kozhikode. Sir, it's so inspiring to see your consistent effort in doing various certifications. In fact, when reading your profile, I felt that every other year you have been upgrading with yourself with various certifications. I'm sure your address today will enlighten all of us. It's my pleasure to welcome you for today's program. Thank you, sir. I also extend my welcome to our Dean Student Affairs, who introduced the guest to us today, and all the heads of departments, all my colleagues, and my dear students. Once again, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you. Over to Nagalakshmi.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, the list was so big, and he seems to be a very resourceful person who is going to just throw light and enlighten us with all what we have today. Just a gentle reminder before we get started. The participants who are here, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat window in your control panel. We will also, if time permits, we will also have questions. We have time for questions at the end. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to our chief guest, Mr. James Verghese. Sir, on to you.
Thank you. On the outset, good morning to all. Thank you for the opportunity to be in your midst this morning, and very much grateful to the management, the dean, the principal of the college and institution. Thank you from me and for all the people hosting this. And so today's I'll just share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today's topic, as is given to me, is on the Indian Union Budget of 22, which was presented by Honorable Finance Minister in the Parliament on the 1st of February. Excuse me. Generally, when just a little bit of background for the Union Budget for some of our friends who may be new to the subject, the entire government expenditure and income is given us a thorough view through the Union Budget as for the next year's planning. This is based on the economic survey that happens before it, and the economic survey finds the pulse of the economy of the country, shares its information, and based on which the Union Budget looks forward to make tweaks in the finances of the country. Till about the year a few years ago, we had the railway budget and the finance budget being separately presented by the honorable ministers for the different ministries. But now, since few years, it has been integrated together. And so you have the railway budget and the union budget being incorporated into one and being presented by the finance minister. The other interesting point is till the year 2000, the union budget used to be presented at 5 p.m. in the evening on the budget day. This was happening from pre-independence time, and this was in fact going on since because we were a colony of the British, and the British Parliament had to be part of the budget. But from year 2000, when the NDA came in, we have the finance minister, Mr. Yashwant Sinha, who changed the tradition and made it at 11 o'clock. So these are the few tips about the union budget. So this budget gives you, an overview of what is going to be expect from the government in the coming year. In this year's budget, we had more of prose and no numbers. Normally, a budget would definitely have budget figures. It would have various, implications of the changes being made in terms of financial matters. But in this budget, it was more of prose. There was no numbers, and the numbers are in the detail, which one can see. One has to look for separately in the finance bill. So the finance minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, presented this on the 1st of February, and she called it the Azadi Amrit Kal, which means in Hindi, the freedom and a good time to come for the next 25 years. So it is a good time for India for next 25 years, from the 75 years of independence to the next 100 years. So in some ways, she was saying that she's laying the foundation for the next 25 years. And it has been a budget which has a lot of stress. When you look at it, you look at the overall aspects of it, you have the four aspects. Primarily, you have the PM Gati Shakti, you have inclusive development, you have the productivity enhancement, and then you have financing of investments. These are the four broad brackets in which you have the thrust of the government of India for the next term. Now, this is the thought process, what they have planned for. As the topic says, hits and misses. We do not know, how many of this will really have a hit and how many will be missed. For example, when the NDA started with their first term, they said, they're coming with 100 smart cities. but that did not, we are not seeing anything on the ground about the 100 smart cities. So, so also this this is very innovative, very far, goal setting aspect by the finance minister. But on the ground, how things will happen all depends on the implementation. As you know, implementation is something that is very, sorry, very difficult in our country because of its democratic fabric and its mass diversity. And so the implementation, has its own issues when it comes, when it happens. So basically, the Gati Shakti means the fast forward momentum. It is driven by 7 engines, namely on roads, railways, airports, ports, mass transport, etc. Similarly, inclusive development, you can see that it encompasses many crucial aspects of the economy. Similarly, there is the going forward focus on the new generation things of technology. You are looking at IoT, artificial intelligence, semiconductor, clean mobility, geospatial systems, and drones. Looking at solar power and transition to carbon neutral economy also. Further, in financing, you are looking at effective capital expenditure by green bonds, gift city, venture capital investment, blended finance, etc. Digital currency. Digital currency is the new thrust of the government starting this year. So basically, when you look at these focus area of the country, you can understand that this is more of welfare and this is more of capital expenditure. And so you can understand where the government is going to put its focus on in the next 1 year and beyond that. These are also areas where one can look at for, as I'm speaking to an institution, people belonging to institution, you could look at research areas and research topics because all these are growth areas for you. Coming to the key economic indicators, you have the fiscal deficit, which is 6.4%. The fiscal deficit is nothing but the spending of the government from overspending of the government over all its income, whether it's tax or non-tax. The revenue deficit is the deficit on revenue account, and the gross tax revenue is 9.6%. The non-tax revenue, which is basically dividends from PSUs, etc., is minus 14%. The nominal GDP growth rate is 11.1%. When you look at the nominal GDP growth rate of 11.1%, you must understand that there was a contraction of the economy by more than 7% in the previous years, 2 years, due to COVID. So on that, there is a growth of 11.1%. So we are just coming back to the pre-COVID levels of GDP. On the direct taxes front, so there are two ways the government taxes. One is the direct tax and the indirect tax. The direct tax is which is through your income tax and other things. The indirect tax is through your GST and other customs and excise. So, which is also fuels. So something that fuels that you see is also indirect taxes. So in the case of direct taxes, government has brought in some interesting aspects of deduction and changes and also rationalization. We will go to that as we go to the next slides. And in terms of indirect taxes, it has also looked at 7.5% on capital goods for project imports and all of that. And it has tried to smartly balance expectation of the industry in the wake of economic recovery post the pandemic, while maintaining public confidence. So we must understand that the context of this budget is also the 5 states, key states that are going into polls in this year. So based on that, this budget has been made. And of course, many aspects go into the creation of the budget. So these are the goals of the Amrit Kal. The 4 priorities, as we already saw: PM Gati Shakti, inclusive development, productivity enhancement, financing of investments, focus on growth and all-inclusive welfare, promoting technology-enabled energy transition and climate action, virtuous cycles, starting from private investment crowded by public capital investment. So you have a blended finance both from private sector as well as from the government. When you look at the graph below, you can see that the recovery of the economy. So it looks like a K-shaped recovery of the economy. We hope that here on, from here on in 2022-23 onwards, it will be up and up because we are right now the 6th largest economy in the world. We hope to touch number 4 or 3 very soon, maybe, in less than a decade. So there is a lot of potential in the India story. So that's the good news, that we are into a recovery, a K-shaped recovery, and we hope to, our country hopes to do well and to be able to create jobs and investments and a lot of prosperity for everyone. So the drivers of the 7 engines, as we already saw, government is, now you can go through it. I will not be reading the slide out, but these are the ambitious plan. I just would like to say, we are going to they will plan of completing 25,000 kilometers national highways in 2022-23. And the other unique feature is the 4 multimodal logistics park through PPP in this year. The fact is that in this particular year, 4.1% of GDP is allocated to infrastructure. That is nearly 10+ lakh crores of rupees. That is the huge amount that the government is going to spend on infrastructure. So the thrust is on infrastructure, creating infrastructure, and creating more jobs and more investment into the hand of the public, so that there is more spending from the public. The next aspect is the allowing taxpayers to file in terms of tax aspects. Taxpayers to file updated return within 2 years for correcting errors. We will see that more in detail later on, and various other things. The most important aspect is the income from transfer of virtual assets to be taxed at 30%. So the cryptocurrencies, which till today there was no clarity from the government as to how they would treat it. At least they have brought in a legislation to tax it at 30% from now on. Where does your rupee come from and where does your rupee go to in the budget? So if you see, from where the rupee comes from, borrowings and other liabilities is still 35%, whereas GST and income tax together is only 31%, plus customs if you put, it is 36. So nearly the same amount that income tax and the GST and customs bring in is what we are borrowing also. So this is how the budget, the rupee comes in for the budget, and how the rupee is spent. You see, it is spent on different things. It is spent 8% on defense, 8% on defense, and it is central sector schemes 15%, pensions 4%, and the interest payments are the highest at 20%. How much does government spend on education? It is 0.4%. So this is the revenue receipts and the capital receipts vis-a-vis the revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. This is where the different ministries get their share. So you have the highest going to the Ministry of Defense, which is 5,25,166 crores. Of this 5,25,166 crores at the bottom, Ministry of Defense, 24% goes into pensions, just for the information. And this time, the Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Communication has got 92% more than the last year. The next one is Ministry of Road and Transport, got 52% more than last year. And the Ministry of Jal Shakti has got 25% more than last year. So these are the three top areas of spend by the government. In the inclusive growth, government is looking at agriculture and skill development. In the terms of agriculture, it is looking at natural farmings, with the farmers' lands close to Ganga River, it will be started there, chemical-free natural farming. This is a unique scheme that is going to be launched. You will have a PPP mode for delivery of digital and high-tech services to farmers. You will have Kisan drones to aid farmers in crop assessment and spraying of insecticides, nutrients, etc. A blended finance of launching a fund with blended finance facilitated through NABARD to finance agriculture startups. A very needy step. And then you have the very important plan of Ken Batwa link project. This is the two tributaries of Yamuna being linked together by a 211 kilometer link. And this is the linking of the rivers, actually, project. And 9.1 lakh hectare farmland will be benefited with providing drinking water 62 lakh people and generating power. Skill development, you have TV channels promoting to every 200 TV channels promoting education to the far-flung areas, the nook and corner of the country. In the health, you have various schemes. I just highlight on the Saksham Anganwadis. 2 lakh Anganwadis will be upgraded to Saksham Anganwadis. They will have all technology used services and delivery. You have all-inclusive, welfare in terms of getting water to the households. 3.8 crore households, 80 lakh houses to be completed in the PM Awas Yojana. You have digital banking coming in, and you have a lot of schemes for the MSMEs. The MSMEs are the topmost employment, employers in the country. So we have about 6 crore plus MSMEs in the country, and they combined employ more than the corporate world. So unless the MSMEs are empowered, economy will not be, will not get the boost. You will not have job creation, because job creation is done by MSME. So now they have covered even the hospitality related enterprises into the ECLGS scheme, and it is a guarantee scheme up to 5 lakh crore given, and you have other schemes also. The productivity enhancement and investment sunrise opportunities, you have the ease of doing business, you have all the right buttons pressed, support to 5G also under the PLI scheme. You have SE desired to be replaced by development of enterprise and service hubs and enable states also to partner in this whole scheme. You have also additional allocation of 19,500 crore for PLI scheme to manufacture of high solar efficiency solar modules. So the PLI scheme is broadly linked in scheme and incentive scheme, and just today there is a news that Ford, we heard, is leaving the country, but it is exiting the country, but it may come back because of the PLI scheme with the EV, electronic mobility. Then you have the energy transition and climate change, and you have one of the key things was battery swapping for the e-mobility. So that is something that is now a requirement, because more and more vehicles will be moving into the EV space now. So come another 5 years, you will have more e-vehicles on the road than fuel vehicles. Then the financing of investments, you have the GIFT ISC, that is the Gujarat International Finance Tech City, and the International Finance Service Center, where foreign universities will be allowed in the country. You have different, you have also the digital rupee being coming in from this year, going to be introduced by the Reserve Bank of India, and the green bonds also to mobilize resources for green infrastructure. Now we'll just see a few of the highlights of the direct tax proposals. I know that you all are, most of you are not from the CA profession or have much of information on tax. So I have just given a high level what is some of the changes that has come in the income tax. There is no change; it remains the same. She has not brought any change in the tax slab or the percentage or any of the sections for providing any relief for tax. So that is the same. In this case, in this slide, the only thing to note is that beyond 50 lakh onwards, whether you are less than 60 years or senior citizen or super citizen, you pay the same tax rate. One thing to tell you is that in our scheme of the income tax, there is no taxation on agriculture. That is an exempt category, and it is added only into your return for determining your tax bracket. Otherwise, there is no tax on agriculture in the country. The other aspect I would like to mention about is the new the benefits given to companies that are incorporated after October 1st, 2019, and commences manufacturing before March 31st, 2024. They have been further given a reduction to 17.16%. So the effective tax rate for them would be 17.16%. Generally, otherwise, domestic companies are at 25.17% under 115 BE. This is for manufacturing companies. The other aspect they have brought newly in the budget is you had till now you had an original return or a revised return concept. So you filed one return for a particular year, and then you found that there was some error from your side. You can always file a revised return. But in this section 139(8)(a), they have brought in this new rule that you can also additionally have in case you have not, if anything is missing, you can correct your return. And if you are correcting your return within a year of after the assessment, it is 25% of tax additional plus interest. And if it is 2 years post the assessment year, then it is 50% of tax and interest due on additional income. So correction is allowed up to 2 more years. On the welfare scheme, they have in 80D, they have also made an amendment for maintenance, relaxation in hardship of availing tax deduction or expenditure on maintenance of dependent with disability. Earlier, if the parent or the guardian who is subscriber passed away, passed away before the individual, then the amount deposited in the scheme would become taxable. Now that hardship has been removed. So this is one small benefit in 80DD for the people having dependent disabled persons. In terms of COVID, they have allowed if the money is received by a family member of a deceased person within 12 months of the death, the cause of death was COVID-19, shall be tax exempt. If no limit if it is from an employer of the deceased person, and tax exemption limited to 10 lakhs in case of money received from other persons. So this is one change that has been brought in, but it is most important that the cause of death must be certified as COVID-19. There is some rationalization of provisions in terms of unexplained cash credit. The onus to prove the source of the funds in the hand of the creditor or the entry provider. So this is just to avoid, all kinds of malpractice of, money laundering and unaccounted money. So only if the source of fund is also explained in the hands of the creditor or entry provider, then only there will be, benefit. Otherwise, it will be fully taxable and with penalty and prosecution. Then you have the liability of directors of private company. So in not only in liquidation, but also in actual, if the company's company gets into any liability with the tax authorities, every director on it is also liable personally. Then you have faceless assessment. Excuse me. There was some anomaly in the faceless assessment procedure. The Department of Income Tax was using some loopholes. They were following the previous procedure to, for the assessment purposes. Now that has been now rectified, that and says that the proposed amendment is that assessment will not be void merely because the prescribed procedure not followed. So there were a lot of litigation in the courts because the tax victims would go or the assessees would go to the courts and say the procedure is not followed, so we are not liable. In case of withholding tax, one thing to know is that the digital currency assets, like cryptocurrency, there is a withholding tax of 1% on payment of transfer of virtual assets to a resident. So if you are buying, for example, a cryptocurrency now, you will have to pay 1% the withholding tax on the purchase. So automatically the government comes to know who is holding how much virtual assets here on. Till now, unless you report, they were not aware. Thank you. So I stop my share here and I will take questions. Thank you for patiently listening.
Thank you so much, sir. We understand that this budget focused more on longer-term value creation than the short-term substitutes. So participants, You can post your questions in the chat window, sir. For your information, already a few of them have posted their questions in the chat window. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So I see that what is the...
Sorry,
yeah,
sir,
yeah.
you want us to read or?
No, I'm looking at the first question, ma'am.
Okay, fine, sir.
I think 1046. No, that is the first question that came. So what is the allocation for education and research and how does it compare to the previous budgets? Is that the first question, ma'am?
Yes, sir. That is the first question.
Okay. So in terms of education, it went up, it has always been around 2.5 to 3%. This time it has slightly gone up to 4%. So it is about, in actual rupee terms, it is 1 lakh crore on education this time. So this time it is 1 lakh crore. I think this is the highest in terms of actual number in any budget. So 1 lakh crore has been allocated for education and research. Always income tax slab becomes a debate after it's an expectation of all salary, but it's still not increased. What's your view on this? This is not a year when, we are going to face the parliamentary elections. So hence, there is no tweaking of the income tax limits for the middle class. So, and then there is 2.5 lakhs with ATC and 5 lakh without any deduction. Why there are two choices? Is it causing any confusion? No, there is no confusion. One is in the new regime and one is in the old regime. So if you have deductions, you compare yourself in both the regimes, whether you want to go in the new regime or continue in the old regime for income tax, individual income tax. If you are going in the old regime, it is beneficial in case you have a lot of deductions available in ATC, ATD, ATDD, or all other sections, ATI sections. So if you are there, if you have deductions there, it's worthwhile to be in the old regime. If you don't have, so it is for the it is a kind of a sweetener for the new entrance into the tax regime for the young people. They have brought this so that they don't need to invest into ATC and all those instruments. They directly go into the new regime, pay the tax, and do away with it. And so they end up paying lesser tax in that regime. So, but those who are in the old regime can opt to go for the new regime. But once you opt to the new regime, you can't come back. So be careful when you make the switch. What is the benefit of chip inserted passports? Is this the next question, ma'am? Because I may be skipping.
Yes, sir. That is the next question.
Yeah. What is the benefit of chip inserted passports? So the chip inserted passports is, in future there will be chip inserted, gadgets into your body also. So we're just starting with that. So chip inserted passports is basically where your vaccine certificates and vaccinations and all those things are, you have it. Now you take your passport and then you have to show your Verghese, or you have to show your physical copy of your, the vaccine certificate. Later on, it will be just, embedded there. So what happens is when you go take a passport, how many booster doses you got also will come into the passport. So all those all those things will be there so that you can cross borders easily. And chip inserted passports also would have various other recognitions also, your visa and all of those things. So you may not need to, if you're a frequent flyer abroad, you don't have to carry many passports. Nowadays, earlier, every page there was a visa. If you are a frequent flyer, you have to keep changing, updating your passport with a new one. within 2 years, 3 years, based on the number of times you fly out with a visa. So, but those things will not be necessary once it's a chip inserted passport. In what way 2022 budget benefits the below poverty level people? As we see that a lot of funds are being made, being outlaid for capital expenditure. So automatically, there will be a lot of infrastructure development, a lot of contracts being awarded, a lot of work happening. As a result, for all those work to happen, of course, there will be mechanized use of mechanized aspects or implements, but at the same time, there will be a lot of labor requirements. So that is employment is one of the ways that the BPL people will be benefited, and you have capital expenditure happening not only in the roads and ports and all of those things. You are happening also in the Northeast, Pan India. You are also seeing it happen. Funds being given for farming, natural farming, and all that. So that way, they are trying to cover all the spectrum of below the level poverty level. And then, of course, the budget, of course, for the Narega, which was Narega, that is the 100-day subsidy for the farm laborer, has been the allocation has been reduced this time by 20,000 crores. So that way, that that has been reduced, but capital expenditure has been increased. So indirectly, those BPL people will be benefited. What is your opinion regarding cryptocurrency? Will government be able to regulate it? So government is now trying to bring in regulation via the income tax domain. So that income tax route, they are trying to at least bring the taxation and the tax at source on transfer, all those things they're trying to bring in. But that does not mean, the government has very clearly said, it does not mean they are legalizing cryptocurrency. They are not legalizing cryptocurrency at the moment. That will be the domain of the Reserve Bank of India, not the Finance Ministry cannot take an arbitrary decision on it. It will be Reserve Bank of India which will be taking an opinion and bringing in the regulation for cryptocurrencies. Right now, it is though they have brought in taxation into it, it is not recognized. Still, there is no clarity on its recognition. So you will still have to face music of the government under different other authorities if you own cryptocurrencies. But there are many people owning cryptocurrency. That's a different thing. But it's a risky investment right now. How this budget helps in real estate industry growing? Okay, so the real estate industry, Prime Minister's Awas Yojana and all those housing projects, government has given some benefit, and the real estate industry as such, the government has not given a clear message, but overall, putting the thrust onto infrastructure, that helps in the real estate market also growing. So, for example, if the metro line comes, to different pockets, currently that is a new line coming up from Poonamali onwards to Thousand Lights. So you have all those areas around that, those hubs would get the proper real estate would get developed. So those are the indirect benefits government has brought into the direct benefit is not there. Does taxes come for crypto just for holding them also? No, taxes does not come for holding the cryptocurrencies, but any transfer, any purchase, there would be taxation. And of course, you have to disclose your your holding, but it's also its implications. As I said already, we don't know what other implications the government will bring before they legalize cryptocurrency. What are the basis for the 30% flat tax on crypto? They just want to make money for the budget, because there are more than, I think, 1 crore individuals or entities holding cryptocurrency in the country. So there's a lot of money locked in the crypto. So they want to make money on that. Of course, exchanges are there already. There are WazirX and so many others are there in the country, large ones. And so automatically from the exchanges, they will know what is the transactions happening, and then the taxation will follow. In what way 22 budget benefits the BPL people? I've already answered. Is this the next one, madam? Does taxes come up for Christmas? No, this is not. Okay.
Yes, sir. That is the next question.
Yeah, how the recent budget on crypto is going to benefit Indian economy? Yeah, I already answered that. To put in a nutshell, is this budget 2023 is empty, promises a solid delivery for entrepreneurs? Time will tell, madam. This time we heard there is some budget reserved for digital learning and mental health initiatives. How it helps education institutions? Yeah, so those details are in the budget, the finance bill. We have to, I have not seen those related to mental health institutions. What are the actual aspects in the finance bill? It runs into pages. So I would say that if you have interest in that, please get the copy of the finance bill online and then look it up. All the details would be there. But then based on those, approaches, government will definitely have to bring in regulation or notification for its implementation. When the basic needs are left unattended in rural areas, how do we satisfy digital education if online is? So how it's complete cutthroat in the digitized world? Brijesh. Yeah, that is something, how this will help students, how far it will bring in mainlining, of marginalized students. All those questions are to be answered by the, government. They would definitely have some plans, otherwise they would not have announced. So there are some plans underway. So we'll have to wait for those plans to be, released. What's your view on privatization of union government? I don't know where that question came from, Mr. Sadasivam. Okay, maybe you are talking about the privatization of the PSUs. Okay, so privatization of the PSUs is simple that the government says government does not believe to be in business. So government says it's none of our business to be in business. We have to be only in governance. So that is the tagline of the government. Minimum government, maximum governance. So that is the tagline. So they want to get out of business. So they are privatizing, trying to give to private hands. How is it going into private hands? That is a question to be seen. What does the budget have for middle class people? I have already said not much. This is not a year of parliament election, so we are not seeing anything. Why sudden rise in SST for option traders? Yeah, so yeah, they're trying to plug in the gaps wherever there there is to raise some taxes. So that is the so right now the market is very much buoyant. You see the budget also is as some analysts said, that the government had not even, if finance minister had not even brought in, read the budget speech and did not say anything, still the markets would have been buoyant, because the markets have welcomed this budget very much, because there is nothing in the budget to impede its growth. So we can see the market growing more. There is more potential for it to grow. So SST is a small correction to bring in some funding. STT. How can the government collect taxes when the government still is not? Yeah, it's a contradiction. I agree. Is that all, madam?
Yes, sir. I think it looks like we have covered all the questions, and most of them are centered with the cryptocurrency, which is new, whether they would like to know if it's legal, illegal, why this tax, and so on. But anyway, you answered it so briefly, and it has given us an idea as to what all is about in this budget 2022-23. And now I invite Dr. Anita Manuel, Dean of Student Affairs of the KCG, to propose her word of thanks. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Nagalakshmi. So just want to thank our chief guest, Mr. James Verghese, for being with us today and for giving us such a very succinct analysis of the budget. Very frankly, I usually don't listen to the budget, post-budget analysis numbers, and my eye starts glazing over. But as you know, my husband is there listening to all of this. So it's one of the very few times I've actually sat and actually listened to an analysis, and I'm glad that I did that, because it's given me a much better idea of what is happening. So it's interesting to know that the government has increased its allocation for education sector, because I know that many research organizations were complaining earlier that their budget had been slashed, and therefore research was lagging behind. So the government seems to have taken that to heart. So that's nice to know. And cryptocurrency, Mr. Verghese, I know you just now said that's not a safe place to invest in, but and a lot of questions from the youngsters came on cryptocurrency. All my students were asking you those questions. So a lot of youngsters are investing very heavily, because they find that little amounts they can put in, and they can get a huge returns. So that's a very attractive area for these youngsters. And we have to see, as you also said, everybody's a little confused as to how they're taxing it when they have not legalized it. But let's see from where it goes. Thank you so much for taking this time and being with us, Mr. Verghese. Thank you so much for being with us. And my thanks also to the management, because every time it is they who initiate this, post-budget analysis, a little talk on that for us faculty. And unlike me, I think all my faculty and clearly students are also interested in seeing how the budget impacts them. And I thank them also for being part of this. So thank you again, Mr. Verghese, for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.